Hey, Laker Nation, subscribe to the Lakers Report if you want more videos. The trade deadline is just around the corner, less than a month away. Chase Sr.'s been cooking up with the latest trade rumors recently. We got some more to go. Hit that sub button. Crossed 40,000 subs recently. Let's keep it moving here on youtube.com/LakersTV. Any given Thursday by Chat Sports, Harrison Graham, Chase Sr. Let's talk some more trade buzz around Laker Nation, Chase. How about Gary Trent Jr.? Does that intrigue you at all?
Yeah, so this was somewhat of a surprising deal at the NBA trade deadline last year when he was sent from the Portland Trail Blazers to the Toronto Raptors. And what was a surprising deal at the time? And I really liked it for Toronto because I think Gary Trent Jr. is a very good young player who's still developing. Now, this coming from Hoops Hype, Michael Scotto on the Lakers' interest in Gary Trent, as the Raptors are kind of in purgatory right now in the Eastern Conference, not real players to make a run at an NBA championship. He said this, quote, "Los Angeles Lakers have been doing their due diligence around the league and expressed interest in Raptors guard Gary Trent Jr., according to league sources, one of several players they have checked in on. However, I don't see a deal happening between these teams at this time, since it would likely have to involve Talen Horton-Tucker and Kendrick Nunn from a salaries perspective. For me, I think Trent is nice. He's having a career year. The efficiency, as we're about to show you here in a little while, not necessarily there with the shooting numbers, but as an energetic player, as a young player, I think he'd fit well on this Lakers roster who, as we've talked about, they're pretty old and sluggish at times.
Yeah, they need some juice. I mean, that's the word that comes to mind. They just need some juice on this roster. I mean, they feel slow. They feel old. You and I downplayed that coming into this year, but it's kind of played out that way, and especially with Russell Westbrook being just not good. I mean, you guys can yell at me in the comments if you want. It's just a fact at this point. Like, he's just 2 for 14 the other night. Just bad. I mean, he's not
can't be losing against the Kings. Man.
Yeah,
it's just
not working, man. Gary Trent Jr. is a guy who is ascending as a player, whereas a lot of the guys on this roster are descending or have at least maxed out at this point in their careers. Like you mentioned, career year in a lot of aspects, 16.5 points a game. He's getting to play a lot in Toronto, which is valuable at over 34 minutes per game, which is good. But I think he would be a young, energetic piece that could start or come off the bench and I think give you some of that juice that I'm talking about here in the second half of the season.
16 points per game. He's shooting around 42% from the field, almost 37% from distance, though. That's really good because you look at the volume there to the right, 14.5 field goal attempts per game. Lakers need some shooting. They need some playmakers. They need some youth and exuberance.
And I think that efficiency goes up when you play with a guy like LeBron, AD, when he gets back. Sure, Gary Trent's expensive. He got paid, and the Lakers are tight on cash. You'd have to get creative with moving some contracts here. But this is a short and a long-term play. I think he helps you now, and I think he helps you as you kind of transition into the future as well. I mean, you can't just keep going, 1 year at a time with a bunch of one-year contracts. This is a guy that, you kept THT, and maybe that was questionable, but maybe you pair him with him and a couple of other pieces as you kind of move into the future as well.
Yeah, we talk about him being a little bit expensive. He signed this deal during the free agency period over the summer, $16 million per year this year. Next year, it goes up to $17 million. The year after that, $18.5 million. But here's the thing. If you're getting a player who's giving you around 16 points per game and you're paying him $16 to $18 million per year, with today's NBA salary cap,
that's just how it is, man.
It really is just how it is, and it's actually pretty good value because a lot of players of this caliber are making $20, $25 million. I mean, Talen Horton-Tucker is getting 10 a year, and you have a player in Gary Trent who might give you more, who's making around 16 mil. So I actually don't think in the grand scheme of things, the number looks big, but for the numbers he's giving you, it's not all that much.
I mean, let me ask you this. Who would you rather have, Russell Westbrook or Gary Trent?
Gary Trent.
I mean,
that might be disrespectful to some, but
that's just
the truth for me.
It is what it is, man. Would you trade for Gary Trent Jr.? We'll ask you guys this question. Type T for trade, or you can type P for pass. If you can make it happen, I mean, I think this is kind of the guy we've been talking about. We just chop it up in the office all the time, Chase. Like, this team needs energy. They need some juice. I think Gary Trent fits that bill, both from an energetic standpoint and from an ability standpoint. I'm typing my T for trade. If you can find a trade for Gary Trent Jr., I would absolutely do it. Let us know what you guys think on this one down in the comments section. And look at what producer Jeremy Chuggs cooked up here with this double cam heater as we put this one up on screen.
Those jerseys, by the way, fresh.
Get him in the purple and gold, man.
Fresh.
Those are elite for Toronto.
Gold and black, elite color combos, and he's rocking some gold.
Hey, that
purple and gold.
That translates, man.
Lakers, it kind of translates.
Hey, those are almost like the Black Mamba jerseys.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very close.
That's true.
So we'll see. Maybe Gary Trent Jr. becomes a Laker. Maybe he needs some gear when he does get traded. And if you guys want some gear, we got some hats available, up to 40% off. Go to chatsports.com/Lakers hats. You know, you got some of the curve bill, the flat bill style, the snapbacks, and look at this one. Jeremy just, moaned when he saw this one. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Oh, the pine trees. You got this blackout one as well. This is an accent. Wrong tree. It doesn't matter. 40% off for some of these. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Oh, and then the championship ones from a couple of seasons ago. Go check them out. I meant to say, now I'm just all over the place. Click the link. But look, this title hat's only $5. I mean, come on. Live in the good. If you don't think they're winning it this year, just go get this hat, and you can relive the glory days. Chatsports.com/Lakers hats. Okay, so Gary Trent Jr. trade. As we keep moving here, let's move to Jerami Grant. Chase, who could be on the trade block again. Is he a guy that LA could get?
We talked about him a lot here on the Lakers Report, and as evidenced by some of what the people have been saying in the comment section, I understand it's not always a litmus test that you want to take in the comment section because it can be a cesspool. A lot of Laker fans really like him, and you can easily see why. I mean, Jerami Grant is a player who's currently out with a thumb injury right now, but has really grown into a very good all-around player who last year was in the race all year alongside Julius Randle for most improved player.
Yep.
And he came into the league out of Syracuse and kind of has done over time what a lot of other NBA players don't. A lot of other NBA players just rely on that athleticism to get them through, but they don't maximize their abilities or round out their arsenal. Grant's been able to do that, and because of that, has really exceeded all expectations, turning into a very good player. Now, The Athletic came up with a trade idea for Jerami Grant to go to the Los Angeles Lakers. Here it is. Now, you'd have to get rid of Talen Horton-Tucker, who last year at the NBA trade deadline, Rob Pelinka did not trade away for Kyle Lowry. Continued to say, big mistake. But Pistons would get Talen Horton-Tucker, Kendrick Nunn, Kent Bazemore, and a 2027 first-round pick in exchange for Jerami Grant. So would you do it? Get into the comment section right now. Type yes or no. Harrison, what would you do?
I might do it, and you might right that wrong from keeping THT. And look, I think they should have done it for Lowry. And, Lowry probably has more championship credibility, of course, than Jerami Grant, but you may actually end up winning in the long run because Grant's more of a long-term piece than a guy like Kyle Lowry would be. This has intrigued me. You haven't even seen Nunn play this year for the Lakers, really. Bazemore, he's a throw-in. You don't need him. And the Lakers are in a spot where trading future first-round picks isn't a big deal. So, yeah, if you can get him and know that he can be healthy for you because he's been a little banged up, then, yeah, that's something I would consider. He's a guy that could give you 18 points as kind of your number 3, number 4 scorer on this offense, and he would improve your defense that has slipped this season.
Yeah, and the teams in on Jerami Grant, according to The Athletic, it includes a couple of them. Los Angeles Lakers, New York Knicks, Washington Wizards, Damian Lillard, and all of these teams have marquee players in LeBron James, Julius Randle, Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard. But just because they have that star-level talent doesn't mean it's translated into wins this year. As we record this on Thursday, January 13th, all of these teams are at 500, just above 500, and in the Blazers' case, well below 500, so they're looking to make roster upgrades. And for Grant, we talk about that development earlier, first 6 years with Philadelphia, OKC, and the Nuggets, 9 points per game, 4 boards, 1 dime, and 7 field goal attempts per night. Those 7 field goal attempts per night over the last 2 years has now blossomed to 17 field goal attempts per night. And those points per game numbers have really gone up dramatically from 9 to about 21 and a half. So Jerami Grant, you talk about the development. This is just offensively that we're showing you. And don't just get appealed by what he does on the offensive end of the floor. The impact that he can give you defensively is also enormous as well. And from the Lakers standpoint, they need more athleticism. They need more quickness. They need some youth. They need better defense.
Shooting.
I kind of liked what the roster was this past offseason because I'm like, you're all in. You push your chips into the center of the table for this year and this year only. It hasn't really worked out, though, and that's been the problem.
Yeah, it all started with Russ,
Yeah.
It all started there. So if you can, get a guy like Grant in here or a guy like Gary Trent in here, it kind of helps, solve that problem, I think. So we'll see what happens. The Lakers reportedly remain interested. Look for the Lakers to be active at the deadline because if they keep this roster as it's currently constructed, they're not a championship team, guys. I mean, look around the NBA. You're telling me this team could beat the Nets in a 7-game series, could beat the Bulls, could beat Phoenix, Golden State, Memphis,
Just being real here.
Even though they're inconsistent.
Memphis, Lakers don't match up well with Memphis.
No, I mean, the Memphis they're so fast and athletic. I mean, I think they could run them out. Like, I really do. So I think that would be a big matchup problem. And quite frankly, that could be the 4 or 5 matchup in the West. You may have to play them in the first round. So that's problematic with your current roster. So I fully expect the Lakers to be active at the deadline, and that's why you subscribe, because we'll have you guys covered. Does Grant make the Lakers a title contender? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I think it helps.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it helps. Doesn't make him a title contender. I don't think it moves the needle all that much.
I think you'd have to move Russ, honestly.
Yeah.
I know I keep coming back to that, but you move that contract somehow, fill out that $40 million with a couple other players, then maybe you're back in the mix.